Man, fuck them high heels, let's put some forces on. You fuck with her, you fuck with me, I don't know what you want. I be walking shit down to every song.
From viral fame to a trail of courtroom drama, Consuela and Allie Jones, better known as the famous twins, have lived their lives under an unblinking spotlight. Their rapid TikTok rise was soon overshadowed by a series of escalating incidents. A live-streamed shooting in Maitre Park. Arrest for assault, a bond-violating drug bust, a headline-grabbing stabbing allegation, and even a chaotic Walmart brawl caught on surveillance.
Media as the famous twins arrested for assault and disorderly conduct.
Each event fed into a growing archive of police reports, viral clips, and heated online debates. Law enforcement has since turned its own social media content into evidence, while its fan base splintered into loyal defenders and sharp critics. What began as a story of internet stardom has evolved into a high-profile case study in how fame, controversy, and the algorithm can fuel each other, sometimes with life-altering consequences. This is the rise, fall, and uncertain future of the famous twins. And this brings us to the start of their career. In the heart of Mobile, Alabama, long before they became a recognizable name across TikTok feeds nationwide, Consuela and Allie Jones were simply two sisters whose lives seemed intertwined at every turn. Born identical twins, they shared not only their birthday, but an unshakable connection that would later become the essence of their public persona. Growing up in their tight-knit Mobile community, the two developed an uncanny synchronicity, matching hairstyles, coordinated outfits, and a shared sense of humor that made them stand out at any gathering. It was remarkable how they could coordinate with each other without missing a beat, a natural rhythm between them that later became one of their most recognizable traits when they began posting online. Their early online life was humble, built primarily on Instagram, where the appeal lay in a raw kind of authenticity. They posted snapshots of their daily activities, posing in the same outfits, sharing a glance that hinted at an inside joke only they understood, or simply showing their real personalities without filters or careful staging. It was not yet a calculated pursuit of fame, but rather a digital scrapbook of moments, and yet it drew a small but devoted following. People were drawn to the warmth of their relationship and the ease with which they projected it. By the time TikTok began its meteoric rise as a cultural powerhouse, the twins already understood the basics of connecting with an audience. What TikTok offered them was a new, faster-moving stage, one where trends could be seized in the moment and creativity could reach thousands in the span of hours. When they joined the platform under the name @fame0us.twins, it was a declaration of their presence. The branding was striking, almost self-fulfilling. But it suited their personalities. They carried themselves as though they had already earned the title, which in turn made followers believe it too. Their early TikToks were deceptively simple. A quick lip sync to a popular song, a short dance routine, or a playful exchange between the two sisters. But the dynamic was unmistakable. Side by side, they moved with perfect timing. Their expressions mirrored each other's, their energy fed off the other, and the viewer was pulled into their shared rhythm. In an environment overflowing with solo creators, their twinship was a natural differentiator. Two people, one wavelength, and an almost instinctive understanding of how to hit the beat at the exact same moment. The moment that truly shifted their trajectory came with a now famous clip of them performing a trending lip sync in perfect unison. Every word and movement in sync. There was no special lighting, no elaborate production, just the twins in their element. Something about that short, high-energy burst resonated with viewers.
Looks like someone's mad. Go cry about it, bitch.
It began popping up on For You pages far beyond their hometown audience, and with every new viewer came a wave of shares, duets, and comments. People weren't just watching, they were participating, mimicking the routine and tagging friends to see the twins. From there, momentum built quickly. Each new post became an opportunity to draw in more followers, and the twins learned to ride the wave with remarkable agility. They leaned into the trends that fit their style while adding their own flair, making sure that even when they followed a popular challenge, it still felt like something only they could do. Their personalities came through as much as their performances. The quick glances they exchanged mid-video, the playful smirks, the occasional break into laughter when something didn't go perfectly. These human moments made their content feel accessible. At the same time, their aesthetic began to sharpen. Outfits became more coordinated but still playful. Their hair and makeup choices reflected the same casual confidence, stylish but not overly polished. They presented an image that was aspirational yet attainable, a balance that many creators struggle to find. Viewers could admire them while still feeling like they were just two girls from down the street who happened to be having a lot of fun on camera.
Think you really want no gunplay? You so fine, you look better than Beyonce. Hell nah, shout out to Beyonce. I don't think nobody look better than Beyonce. Ooh, ooh. I don't think nobody look better than Beyonce.
The rise of the famous twins also speaks to the broader phenomenon of how TikTok can transform everyday moments into career-launching platforms. For many creators, success requires a heavy dose of strategy and marketing, but for Consuela and Allie, it seemed to come naturally. The very act of being themselves, twins who had been performing for each other their whole lives, translated perfectly to the fast, looping nature of TikTok videos. The algorithm recognized that viewers were watching their content all the way through and returning to see more, and so it began showing their videos to even larger audiences. The growth was not just in numbers, but in influence. People began referencing them in conversations about twin creators, placing them in the same breath as other famous sibling duos who found fame online. For fans, they represented a form of digital companionship, the kind of creators you checked in on daily, not just to see what they posted, but to feel connected to their energy. Their presence wasn't confined to TikTok either. As their audience grew, clips began circulating on Instagram Reels, Twitter, and even YouTube compilations. Each platform became another branch in their growing online identity. Still, TikTok remained their main stage, the place where they felt most at home and most directly in touch with their followers. It was there that their twinship played out in its most concentrated form. And it was there that their community formed. But as their follower count ballooned, the famous twins began to realize that their appeal could stretch beyond the short-form video loop. They launched a YouTube channel, initially as a repository for their longer skits, challenges, and day-in-the-life vlogs. The move was a deliberate step toward owning their content in a space where they could monetize more directly and explore different sides of their personalities. On YouTube, they weren't bound by TikTok's rapid-fire pace. Instead, they could tell fuller stories, give fans behind-the-scenes looks, and weave in elements of their real lives in a way that resonated on a deeper level. Music soon became a central part of that expansion. The twins had always infused rhythm and performance into their videos, lip-syncing, dancing, and using trending tracks to anchor their brand. Transitioning to creating original music felt like a natural evolution. They began releasing tracks that blended southern rap influences with their own swagger-filled twin-powered energy.
Got this brand new Mac 11, do no one-on-one. Base card bad, don't care about putting no lashes on. I'm stepping like a soldier, captain like a BB gun. Quick to roll down your block like I got heelers on. Ain't tryna hear what you gon' do, little bitch, come get it done. Ho, I put in work around my city, they call me the done. She going to war about a nigga, be her only one. Might go inside with DJ Khaled, this another one. Can't leave the house without her gun, she know that I'm the reason. Bitch, the chopper greasy, hot or red, I call it La Caesar. I'm passing bullets out the clip, la ho be my receiver. I put a switch up on the Glock, that bitch start having seizures. Change the bitch demeanor, then I turn these hoes into believers. That hoe been bucking since a G, I'm knowing that she a beaver. Ain't gotta make her eat the dick, that little hoe been a eater. Twin back up on that bullshit like my daddy's son. I got this brand new Mac 11, do no one-on-one. Base card bad, don't care about putting no lashes on. I'm stepping like a soldier, captain like a BB gun.
YouTube became the perfect home for their music videos, allowing them to merge their visual style with their sound. Each drop was an event, hyped through teasers on TikTok, snippets on Instagram, and countdowns in their live streams. Their tracks weren't confined to YouTube either. They leveraged streaming platforms to get their music into the same spaces as established artists, using their existing social media pull to drive listens and shares. The feedback loop was powerful. TikTok clips pushed listeners to YouTube, YouTube videos sent traffic to Spotify and Apple Music, and every platform fed back into their online persona. In this way, the famous twins became more than just viral personalities, they positioned themselves as entertainers in the broadest sense. Whether fans came for the skits, the candid moments, or the beats, each platform added another layer to their digital empire. And YouTube proved that their influence could stretch far beyond the app that first made them famous. They often posted pictures flaunting sacks of cash, turning those images into a signature element of their online persona. In photo after photo, they would pose with crisp bills fanned out in their hands, spread across their laps, or even stacked like trophies on a table in front of them. Sometimes the money appeared alongside designer bags, flashy sneakers, and sparkling jewelry, creating an unmistakable image of prosperity and self-made success. Other times the focus was solely on the cash itself, the twins locking eyes with the camera as if to say the lifestyle spoke for itself. Whether admired or questioned, the cash photos made them impossible to ignore, reinforcing their brand as bold, unfiltered, and larger than life.
I lost a lot of friends, but who gives a I got the money now, that's all that I want.
While some of their other posts leaned into more unfiltered, even crude style that drew mixed reactions, it didn't slow their momentum. In a social media landscape often polished to perfection, the famous twins' blend of brash confidence and everyday relatability set them apart, and their presence continued to bloom across platforms despite, or perhaps because of, the controversies such posts stirred. Beyond the screen, the famous twins also took their act to live audiences, booking performances at clubs, local festivals, and pop-up events, where their music and high-energy personas translated to an in-person spectacle. On stage, their chemistry was undeniable. The same synchronized movements and quick banter that drew millions online now amped up under flashing lights and thumping bass. Fans showed up not just to hear the songs, but to experience the full famous twins' energy. Coordinated outfits, choreographed moves, and moments where they'd pull the crowd into their world, making the performance feel less like a concert and more like a shared celebration. These shows reinforced their brand beyond social media, proving that their appeal wasn't confined to a screen, it could fill a room. And yet, this was only the beginning. The same traits that fueled their rise would also shape the next phases of their public life. As more eyes turned toward them, the dynamics of fame would inevitably evolve, bringing with it new opportunities, new pressures, and eventually, the kinds of turning points that test how a public figure's story continues to unfold. Following their meteoric rise and rapid ascent into viral notoriety, the famous twins' story took a sharp turn into tragedy and public scrutiny. Their charm and synchronicity on camera never hinted at what would unfold next, but as their fanbase expanded, the dynamics of attention shifted. The warmth of twinhood gave way to a moment that seared itself into local memory. It was a breezy Thursday, 10th of March, 2022, when the crowd gathered. Maitre Park in Mobile was typically a low-key meeting place. Kids played on swings, families chatted on benches, and joggers moved along shaded paths. What started as a protest or heated argument quickly escalated into an altercation involving the famous twins, Consuela and Allie Jones. What immediately followed would change everything. The moment captured by bystanders morphed into a grisly Facebook livestream. On screen, the video shows one of the twins raising a firearm. In 7 sharp bursts, gunfire erupted while the crowd scattered in terror. People screamed and ducked behind trees, benches, anything they could reach. The camera, held by one of the twins or someone near them, didn't shy away.
God, look at them, my God. Oh, hold up. What a fight. What a fight. What a fight. What a fight. What a fight.
I got shot. I ain't gonna lie, I got shot.
On guard.
On my leg.
On guard.
On guard.
Fuck. Let's go. What breed them? Hold on, stop.
It remained trained on the unfolding chaos, almost recording a choreography of violence rather than concealing it.
In the live stream, you see a woman firing 7 shots while people run away screaming.
Witnesses near the park's edge offer critical context. A worker from a nearby store recounted that the initial gunshot sounded sudden and close. The worker glanced outside and saw people scattering and heads turned toward the twins, recognizable in the video as they stood unnervingly composed as their followers watched. More than one witness noted that the twins didn't appear to flee panic, but rather held their ground, as though capturing content was central to their actions.
Followers on TikTok. Just feet away, workers at a store heard the entire thing.
Heard gunshots in the front and peeked out the door, and we heard shots and looked out the door, and they were shooting off that way, heading towards the Tillman's Corner.
Amid the chaos, 2 individuals were struck. One a 16-year-old girl, the other an adult woman. Both were rushed to a nearby hospital and, fortunately, were expected to recover. The wounds were not life-threatening, but the psychological aftermath, especially for the teenager, was profound. People close to the victims described lingering trauma, and unconfirmed local reports suggested the teen's life had become defined by a headline the world could watch in real time.
A 16-year-old girl and a woman were both hit but are expected to be okay.
Video footage and police statements hinted that the shooting hadn't been spontaneous. Mobile Police Chief Paul Prine publicly expressed disgust when they suggested the livestream may have been intentional, possibly motivated by social media clout.
I'll be completely frank with you, I'm disgusted by it.
Chief Paul Prine referring to social media video of Thursday's shooting here at Maitre Park. Police say twins Allie and Consuela Jones are responsible. The 2, who are known on social media as the famous twins, have over 1 million.
I think that it's important to note that maybe in that particular incident, the video was intentional, and it was to gain attention, he told reporters. And though neither side has publicly clarified exactly how tensions ignited, the twins, with over 1 million followers, were then charged with assault. The implication with this, however, was clear. A dangerous escalation fueled, at least in part, by the priorities of virality. First responders arrived quickly. Police tapes sectioned off the area, EMTs crouched beside the wounded, and officers began collecting recorder phones and cameras. The site buzzed with urgent energy, shouts of medical commands, sobering efforts to help those hurt, and officers working to clear bystanders away from danger. Nearby traffic workers paused, stunned by the raw intensity playing out a few steps from their routine.
The police department responded to Maitre Park in Mobile's Woodlawn neighborhood after reports of gunfire and arrived on scene only to find spent shell casings and witnesses.
News crews descended. By the afternoon, local news, led by Fox 10, began airing footage. The twins weren't just trending, they were now tied to an act of violence that transcended trending topics. In one report, the journalist's narration emphasized the surreal moment when influencer fame collided with public safety in full view.
Someone had to see this crowd gathering. Someone had to see the altercation before it led up to the shooting.
Oh yeah, tonight Fox News getting more information about that wild shooting at Maitre Park.
For followers watching the live stream remotely, reactions ranged wildly. Some were horrified, others confused, and a small number posted memes or commentary before realizing the gravity of what they'd witnessed. The platform later began removing footage or limiting its reach, but the digital footprint was already spread across phones, screenshots, and reshared clips. Mobile police moved quickly to arrest both sisters. Within hours, the famous twins were booked on second-degree assault. In a statement, officials noted that the live stream helped identify the suspects, but nonetheless described the act as profoundly reckless in its use of social media as an extension of violence. In households across Mobile, conversations shifted. Digital literacy took on a new meaning. Social media wasn't only silly trends or cute performances, it could become a stage for trauma. Phone cameras no longer felt benign in the palm of one's hand. The incident introduced a generational reckoning. When does documenting become dangerous? And what happens when a moment intended for followers becomes a moment etched in fear? As night fell over Mobile that day, the park was empty. Yet the echo of what had played out there lived on in hospital corridors, in social feeds, in police rosters, and for the twins themselves. The scene had been recorded, shared, and interpreted by a witnessing world, and the ramifications of that recording were only just beginning to unfold. On TikTok, hashtags like #FamousTwins, #Maitre Park, and #MobileShooting surged into trending charts. Some commentators voiced disbelief, others outrage, and a few even morbidly cheered the raw, unfiltered chaos. The frenzy wasn't limited to TikTok alone. The story rippled across Instagram Reels and Twitter, amplifying the twins' notoriety to new heights. It was a digital wildfire, fueled by the adrenaline of real-time drama, where every share, comment, and repost fanned the flames of a controversy that refused to cool down. The incident also sparked a wave of intense backlash that turned many people against the famous twins. Social media comments grew vicious and mocking, with some users targeting even their appearance. Remarks like, "Why does their hair look like they use superglue to shape alien hieroglyphs?" circulated widely, blending ridicule with disgust. The same style that had actually been liked by their viewers now led to their backlash and hatred. As photos emerged later showing the twins smiling or smirking during appearances as their charges were announced, the public fury only deepened. Many saw those expressions as signs of arrogance or a lack of remorse, labeling them dumb or non-serious. Instead of sympathy, these images fueled the perception that they were indifferent to the gravity of the situation, widening the divide between the twins and the wider community. The shift from viral stars to controversial figures became unmistakable and hard to reverse. The internet's lingering fascination with the famous twins turned into real-world urgency within 48 hours after the Maitre Park shooting. What had started as a spotlight on their synchronicity on screen abruptly collided with police sirens and courtroom gravity. It was in these first legal moments that the image of playful influencers yielded to that of defendants under the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. Their mugshots, shared widely on local news, marked a searing shift. The famous twins were no longer only content creators, but criminal defendants. Media coverage proliferated, framing the arrest as a warning about how quickly the instruments of online notoriety, phone cameras, and posting immediacy could overlap with violent behavior in the real world. Consuela had secured her release on bail after the second-degree assault charges stemming from the Maitre Park shooting were laid. Her twin Allie received similar conditions. Their reality had morphed overnight. From crafting synchronized dances to navigating bail bonds and legal counsel. But as they attempted to steady themselves, a new disruption came crashing in. Just days after her release, Consuela was arrested again. On the evening of March 17, 2022, jail records confirmed that she was booked into Metro Jail on charges of use or possession of drug paraphernalia and second-degree possession of marijuana, violations that came while she was still under bond from the earlier assault case.
Consuela Jones, known on social media as one of the famous twins, is back behind bars, this time on a marijuana possession charge.
The timing struck many as cruelly ironic. Consuela's release, intended to be a step toward normalcy, now seemed to have directly paved the way for deeper entanglement in the legal system. Bond, once a hopeful threshold back into daily life, had instead become a fragile line between freedom and containment. Police statements were pointed. Authorities emphasized that her arrest was not only worrisome because of the substance charges, but also because of the context. The charges emerged while she was already facing serious allegations and had been granted partial liberty. In charging her, the justice system reinforced a message. Bond is a conditional privilege, not a shelter from mounting consequences.
Consuela Jones, known on social media as one of the famous twins, is back behind bars, this time on a marijuana possession charge. She and her twin sister Allie were already facing 2 counts of second-degree assault for that shooting at Maitre Park.
Law enforcement sources described how jail records and surveillance showed that the arrest was made late Tuesday night, mere days after she posted bail on the assault charge. The cycle felt swift: bail, freedom, arrest again, with consistency replaced by a rapid pendulum of consequence. When bail is violated through fresh charges, courts view the individual not only as risky, but potentially untrustworthy in adhering to legal boundaries. With that in mind, Consuela's bond faced a new scrutiny, while Allie's status, though technically separate, was now intrinsically tied to her twin's behavior. Defense attorneys and prosecutors alike saw the emerging story: twin influence, fame, and legal peril intersecting in ways neither seemed to have anticipated. Local coverage in Mobile took a firm tone. Headlines on Fox 10 and other regional outlets framed the second arrest as confirmation that the twins' legal battles were spiraling. Journalists highlighted that this was not a minor misstep. A marijuana possession arrest was not their first rodeo. It came while Consuela was supposedly under court-supervised freedom. The narrative shifted. This was no longer only about impulsive behavior, it was an erosion of trust under legal oversight. Back in court, Consuela faced a bond hearing to determine her fate. The new charges nearly guaranteed bond revocation, and as sources reported, the judge overseeing the original assault case took a hard line. Bond was revoked, and Consuela was returned to custody, this time on tighter conditions and with a more difficult path to future release. Her twins' legal ground may have been solid temporarily, but with the bond broken, the foundation felt far shakier.
Police charged two sisters with the second-degree assault, Consuela Jones and Allie Jones. They perform rap music under the name The Famous Twins.
Court hearings throughout 2023 reflected this tense dynamic. Judges emphasized the importance of accountability and compliance, citing Consuela's bond violations as key reasons for continued detention. Meanwhile, Allie's hearings focused more narrowly on assault-related charges and resisting arrest, though the shared media scrutiny and intertwined legal narratives kept both cases closely linked in the public eye. As of now, in 2025, both Consuela and Allie remain under active legal supervision, with ongoing proceedings in state court. While exact trial dates or plea arguments have not been publicly confirmed, the pattern suggests a protracted legal process, marked by negotiations, motions, and possible trial preparation. And through this whole scenario, one question loomed. Could the sisters' brand ever recover? Could twin charisma drive a comeback once court cases closed, or had their fame already mutated into cautionary discourse? What had begun as a live stream performance had become a loaded legal drama with multiple chapters to follow. The first legal clash had only marked its most sobering intersection, when social media starlight met the gavel's shadow. For fans following closely, the sense of unease deepened. The account that once delivered lighthearted twin energy now alternated between bail hearing summaries and mugshot reposts. Some followers made sarcastic remarks, while others promised not to stop supporting the sisters, pledging hopes of redemption and comeback. In influencer circles and online communities, the famous twins became an emblem of the dark edge of fame, where every post can be a flashpoint and every headline can stretch bare what was once performative into something irrevocably real. Over time, the public's attention on Consuela and Allie Jones evolved from just the shooting. It has become intertwined with a series of dark and tragic events, one of the most haunting being the fatal shooting of their stepfather. While the details of that shooting remain complex and sensitive, the cultural narrative surrounding the twins has shifted dramatically, largely fueled by the way the sisters themselves and the public have engaged with social media. So now, people blame them for their stepfather's murder too. The stepfather shooting, which occurred prior to the twins' rise to widespread notoriety, was a traumatic event that shook their family and community. Though the twins have not been officially charged in connection with that shooting, a growing number of social media users began to draw direct and indirect lines connecting the sisters to the tragedy. This linkage wasn't grounded solely in legal facts, but rather grew out of perception, timing, and the twins' own online behavior that many found troubling. One critical factor that amplified these suspicions was the twins' use of live streaming as a way to cash in that moment. This perception of opportunism fed into a wider narrative that the twins were indifferent to the consequences of violence, making them easy targets for public blame. Social media users quickly latched onto this idea. Comment sections under videos, posts, and news articles became breeding grounds for accusations, many of which went far beyond mere speculation. While these claims were largely unsubstantiated and speculative, they reflected a deeper frustration and anger directed at the twins as symbols of what many saw as irresponsible behavior. The twins' social media presence only complicated matters. They continued to post photos and videos that showcased their lifestyle, often flaunting wealth, designer items, and partying scenes. Public sentiment around the twins increasingly viewed them not just as individuals involved in isolated incidents, but as central figures in a broader saga of violence, family tragedy, and social media spectacle. For many, the stepfather shooting wasn't a separate tragedy, but part of a pattern of chaos linked to the twins' lifestyle and choices. As if the mounting legal troubles and public backlash weren't enough, another heartbreaking dimension emerged that intensified scrutiny on Consuela Jones: the death of her young son. Many on social media began drawing harsh and often unfair connections between her personal tragedy and her ongoing legal issues, suggesting that her struggles with the law reflected a deeper neglect or inability to care for her family. Critics argued that the chaos surrounding her public life and courtroom battles showed a disturbing disregard for the responsibilities of motherhood. This blending of personal loss with public judgment created a complex and emotionally charged narrative, one where sympathy and condemnation clashed fiercely, further complicating the twins' already fraught public images. In sum, the tragic shooting of their stepfather has become a haunting shadow over Consuela and Allie Jones's online and personal lives. The twins' choice to live-stream volatile incidents and continue posting amid legal battles has contributed to a charged atmosphere where blame and suspicion flourish. Whether or not the connections people make are fair or accurate, they're very real in shaping the twins' reputation and the ongoing discourse around their actions. By the fall of that year, the pattern of violence and legal confrontation that had come to define Consuela and Allie Jones reached a disturbing new chapter. After months under intense scrutiny for the Maitre Park shooting and subsequent bond violations, the twins seemed trapped in a continuing cycle of escalation. Yet nothing in the public record had prepared fans, or Mobile, for what would unfold in October 2022. In the evening hours of October 23, 2022, authorities alleged that Consuela Jones was involved in a violent confrontation with her boyfriend. According to police reports, she slashed him in the neck and arm with a kitchen knife after discovering a social media post he had created. The attack was sudden, personal, and carried out in the intimacy of a domestic space. While the exact content of the post is unknown, the motive, as reported, was born of personal hurt and provocation, and rendered in swift, brutal action.
File special. One of the self-anointed famous twins in more hot water tonight. Consuela Jones accused of slashing her boyfriend in the neck and arm with a kitchen knife after she confronted him about a social media post he created this past Sunday.
Word traveled fast. Mobile police soon confirmed a warrant had been issued for Consuela, including the use of a deadly weapon and second-degree domestic violence assault charges. The notice described the incident in stark terms: a knife attack on an intimate partner with wounds to the neck and arm. Social media, which had once been her launchpad, now served as a backdrop to the rise of a serious criminal case. Amid the unfolding story, a Fugitive Files segment aired, highlighting Consuela's alleged slashing of her boyfriend and requesting public tips. The characterization was stark. The same person who once evoked viral clips now appeared in a fugitive police grid, a face blurred in local bulletins rather than celebrated on feeds.
Jones and her sister Allie, no strangers to police. Both have been in and out of Metro.
Meanwhile, Allie's position became increasingly fraught. She had not been charged with this incident, but as twins long branded as inseparable, the taint of fugitive status followed her. As weeks went by, the legal logjam began to grow. The warrant remained active, the term fugitive stinging in local headlines, while investigative searches reportedly relied on tips inspired by the Fugitive Files segment.
If you know where Consuela Jones is, call Mobile Police. Remember, you don't have to leave your name.
In the broader digital ecosystem, the famous twins became a case study in caution. Influencer forums parsed how quickly engagement could shift from applause to alarm. Marketers, once hoping for brand deals, backed away from any association. The twins became toxic currency, too unpredictable to mainstream, too real to remain mythic. As winter eased into early 2023, yet another chapter unfolded in the twins' tumultuous saga. A moment that blended everyday routine with chaos, further eroding the gap between their former social media persona and a growing reputation marred by public conflict. It was Monday, January 17, 2023, around 5:07 p.m., inside the fluorescent-lit aisles of the neighborhood Walmart on Government Boulevard in Mobile. The store, like many in suburban areas, was a swirl of shoppers browsing, children sitting in cart seats, and employees restocking shelves. For Allie and Consuela, or more precisely the latter, this mundane setting turned into a flashpoint. At that time, an off-duty Mobile police officer working a secondary assignment at the store spotted Consuela Jones. She was wanted on outstanding felony warrants, and the officer knew her instantly. In that moment, a routine call could have become a quiet resolution, but the scene that followed was anything but routine. Consuela was weaving through aisles, glancing over her shoulder. The officer approached, badge out, voice calm but firm. Suddenly, Allie sprang into view. In the restrained confines of the store aisle, she struck the officer, seemingly in a desperate bid to disrupt his attempt to detain her sister. Allie's movement was sudden, a flash of conflict caught amid canned goods and shopping carts.
It was here last night at the neighborhood Walmart on Government Street that an officer working security recognized Consuela Jones, wanted for outstanding felony warrants.
Within moments, local law enforcement converged. The chaos grew palpably real when flashlights and uniforms replaced the hum of store music. Consuela was taken into custody first on the outstanding warrants, resisting arrest, failure to obey, and disorderly conduct. Allie, who had fled momentarily, was later located and surrendered herself. Unlike her sister, she wasn't charged with resisting arrest, but still received 2 counts of second-degree assault and disorderly conduct.
Consuela was taken to Metro, where Allie showed up about an hour later to turn herself in.
The arrest reports cited consistency in their legal jeopardy. For Consuela, the charges compounded existing assault and bond violations. Her resistance and defiance in public underscored a pattern. She was not retreating behind lawyers, but was acting out in real time, under pressure. Allie, while less charged, found herself again drained of goodwill. Her surrenders, overshadowed by the shadow of her twins' action and imagery of influence, imploded. The court of public opinion rendered verdicts before judges would even gather.
At 22 years old, they both have quite the Metro jail portfolio, and while they're identical twins, you can easily tell them apart, partly because Consuela prefers to flash a smile on her way to Metro. Allie, not so much.
Local news coverage portrayed the event with a sober tone. Headlines like "Famous Twins Arrested Again After Walmart Incident" carried an almost incredulous headline weight. The narrative had shifted from viral influencers to repeat offenders who could no longer obscure their public fallout with trends or edits. All of which left one unignorable question. Could a digital identity survive this kind of real-world reckoning? For fans of 6 months earlier, the Famous Twins had embodied a sweet, rhythmic collaboration between sisters. By January 2023, they'd become cautionary tales of fame without caution, performance without foresight, and how quickly twin charisma could lead to legal calamity. By early 2023, the twins' once cohesive following had splintered. Their ascent from playful influencers to defamed defendants fractured fan communities, drawing lines of loyalty, outrage, and disillusionment. On one side were these staunch supporters, longtime fans who felt emotionally invested in the twins' journey from small-town Mobile to viral fame. These followers held on to hope, defending Allie as the innocent half and pleading for compassion for Consuela's struggles. In comment sections and fan forums, messages like "We love you" and "They're still my girls" persisted. Some rallied around the notion of redemption, believing that fame had blinded them, and that a comeback was possible. On the opposite side were the critics, viewers who saw the twins' repeated legal entanglements as irresponsible, dangerous, and emblematic of a culture that rewards chaos. Memes and commentary circulated, contrasting dancing videos with mugshots, hashtags like #NotFamousAnymore, and commentary labels like "Twin Disaster." Their fall from digital grace had become shorthand for everything wrong with influencer culture. Allie, still active online, found herself navigating a narrow lane, balancing acknowledgement of legal realities with an effort to maintain connection. Her modest, apology-tinged posts attracted both supportive replies and harsh rebuke, reflecting the polarization her sister's fugitive status had magnified. For the broader audience, the fame story of the Famous Twins had morphed into a cautionary tale about how virality's flip side can become infamy. And in that fractured landscape, the fandom that once bound them together now defined them by each side's contrasting belief, one side seeing potential, the other a tragic headline come to life. From the infamous Walmart brawl onward, the Famous Twins' digital persona transformed, not through charm or wit, but through tension and outrage. Their story underscores a reality. Social media algorithms don't reward subtlety, they reward engagement. And nothing drives engagement like controversy. At its core, controversy provokes strong emotional reactions, surprise, anger, and fascination that users are hardwired to engage with. Studies show that content stirring high emotions is more likely to be shared and commented on, setting off engagement cascades that trigger algorithmic boosts. In effect, outrage becomes its own reward, prompting platforms to elevate inflammatory material faster than calm or nuanced content. This cycle resembles rage baiting, where content is designed to provoke reactions that feed social media algorithms. On TikTok, the For You feed hinges on signals like watch time, likes, comments, and replays. Controversial videos often rake in brutal comment storms, repeated views driven by shock, and re-uploads from curious accounts. For the famous twins, controversy became their biggest amplifier. Their most viewed clips weren't their synchronized dances, but the brawls, arrests, and legal dramas that followed. Each new incident renewed the spectacle, drawing viewers out of curiosity or moral engagement. For platforms, this was ideal. It wasn't about supporting their artistry, but sustaining user attention. In practical terms, the famous twins' content got redistributed across TikTok compilations, reactive uploads, and YouTube case study videos, all monetized through ads. Some creators posted timelines with affiliate links or merchandising that capitalized on sensationalism, demonstrating calculated monetization of infamy. The controversies surrounding the famous twins illustrate how high-profile incidents, especially when amplified through viral media, can shape the way communities are perceived, even when the reality on the ground is far more nuanced. In many cases, places tied to sensational events find their public image overshadowed by a single headline, no matter how vibrant or multifaceted the local culture may be. Maitre Park's sudden online infamy is a reminder of how quickly a familiar setting can become shorthand for conflict in the public imagination. For cities like Mobile, such moments can spark quiet but deliberate efforts to reframe the narrative, focusing on traditions, heritage sites, and community events that paint a fuller picture. While the famous twins story remains their own, the ripple effects show how intertwined personal notoriety and civic identity can become in the age of nonstop digital attention. After months of arrests, hearings, and relentless coverage, Consuela and Allie Jones began looking for a way to steer their story in a different direction. Their early notoriety had brought them millions of views, but it also built a shadow they could not easily step out from. The only option, it seemed, was to lean into the platforms that made them famous and attempt a public pivot. They also had their music channel to turn to, where they were releasing tracks on streaming services that mixed swagger with autobiographical storytelling. In their music videos, the twins alternated between glamorous close-ups and candid neighborhood scenes, aiming to present themselves as both relatable and aspirational. Loyal fans flooded the comment sections with encouragement, while detractors dismissed the effort as little more than controversy packaged to sell streams. At times, their content shifted toward a softer aesthetic. Family gatherings, cooking sessions, and beauty tutorials replaced the confrontational tone of earlier posts. This new material suggested an attempt to show range, to prove that they were more than the drama swirling around their name. Whether these changes reflected genuine growth or a strategic rebrand was unclear, but the effort was evident. Despite these moves, the shadow of their past lingered. Each post carried the weight of history, and every appearance was filtered through the lens of what the public already believed about them. In the fast-moving world of online fame, reinvention was possible, but it required something beyond surface change. For the famous twins, the question remained whether they could write a second act compelling enough to rival the notoriety of their first. The rise, fall, and attempted reinvention of Consuela and Allie Jones mirrors a recurring pattern in the influencer age, where online notoriety and legal trouble collide in ways that force a public reckoning. Several high-profile figures have walked similar paths, each revealing how difficult it is to move beyond a scandal once the internet has claimed your name. Danielle Bregoli, who became known to the world through her infamous Cash Me Outside appearance on television, faced theft and drug-related charges early in her rise. Public sentiment initially cast her as a reckless teenager, but she transformed the moment into a music career, adopting the stage name Bad Baby and releasing songs that redefined her public image. By openly framing her chaotic past as a stepping stone, she managed to attract new audiences while keeping her original fanbase engaged. Jake Paul, once a Disney Channel star turned YouTube powerhouse, found his reputation shaken when federal agents searched his home in the wake of a mall looting investigation. Though he was never charged, the incident reinforced a public narrative of excess and irresponsibility. Paul countered by diving headfirst into professional boxing, turning spectacle into a new source of headlines and revenue. His pivot demonstrated how a change in medium, paired with relentless self-promotion, could recast a personal brand in the public eye. Tekashi 6ix9ine's story offered a different lesson. Known for his provocations both online and in music, he became embroiled in a racketeering case that landed him behind bars. His decision to cooperate with prosecutors made him one of the most polarizing figures in hip-hop. After his release, he embraced the snitch label that critics used against him, turning it into a part of his marketing. This strategy kept him relevant but narrowed his audience, as many potential collaborators distanced themselves from his name. Courtney Clenny, known online for her glamorous lifestyle post, faced a swift and devastating collapse of her brand after being charged with murder in Miami. Unlike artists or entertainers with established work to fall back on, her appeal was built on curated luxury and beauty. Once criminal allegations emerged, that curated image was shattered, and her attempts to communicate through PR teams or limited online appearances only deepened public skepticism. These cases illustrate recurring truths about scandal management in the influencer economy. Some personalities can reframe their stories quickly, redirecting attention toward new ventures and capitalizing on the public's short memory. Others attempt to maintain their original persona, betting that controversy itself will remain profitable. The outcome often depends on the nature of their audience. Communities drawn to chaos may continue to support, while those invested in a lifestyle or moral image can vanish overnight. For the famous twins, the comparisons are instructive but also sobering. Like Tekashi, their notoriety is tied to a combustible mix of music and scandal. Like Bergoli, they have tried to turn personal drama into artistic content, yet they face the same ceiling that limited Clenny. Mainstream acceptance may remain out of reach unless they can convincingly reshape public perception. The internet rewards transformation arcs, but these arcs require more than persistence. They demand a storyline compelling enough to make audiences forget, or at least forgive, what came before. In this way, the fate of Consuela and Allie Jones will likely hinge not on whether they can keep people watching, but on whether they can make them watch for something new. As of 2025, the legal chapter for Consuela and Allie Jones remains unresolved, entangled in procedural delays and the lingering weight of past actions. Neither defendant has been reported as acquitted or convicted, suggesting active pending cases and possibly negotiations still underway. Consuela's situation in particular is fraught. After violating her bond with drug-related charges in March 2022, and later facing assault and domestic violence accusations, she slipped into fugitive status, and her bond was formally revoked, citing both the domestic violence history and ongoing criminal conduct. Since then, she appears to remain in custody, her release contingent on future court decisions. Allie, while not implicated in the domestic violence incident, still carries the weight of her own assault charges, resisting arrest count, and public image complications. Looking ahead, several paths lie open, though none are easy. A potential path toward redemption is legal resolution, whether through plea agreements or determined defense strategies. If Allie's charges are downgraded or she reaches a deal that allows some freedom, a polished reintroduction, perhaps through creative work or community initiatives, might soften the public tone. The twins' earlier reinvention attempts, music releases, and live stream PR could reemerge with a more grounded message, one built around healing rather than spectacle. If framed honestly as a turnaround, such attempts could gain traction with parts of their former audience. Yet there are no guarantees. Courts may prioritize public safety and consider Consuela's repeated violations as grounds for continued incarceration or harsher sentencing. The legal shift from influencer to defendant doesn't easily rewind, and media appetite for comeback narratives may be limited, especially if trust remains broken among the community and brand partners. Mainstream avenues, such as music deals or brand sponsorships, may remain out of reach without clear evidence of sustained change. Another possible path is full public exodus, a fading from social media prominence as cases close quietly. In such a scenario, anonymity becomes safety. Without followers or platform interest, the twins could attempt rebuilding a life outside digital fame, though the price of that anonymity is the loss of creative influence and earning potential. Finally, there's the uncertainty of backlash or resurgence. A new viral moment, positive or negative, could reignite attention. But given their history, attention may default to scrutiny, not sympathy, and the courts are unlikely to be influenced by trending metrics. In assessing their future, a key factor is narrative control. If they can shift the arc from scandal to reflection, their story might evolve. But in a digital age where missteps get perpetual remixes, their next moves face heightened scrutiny, not only from judges, but an online world tuned to their history. As of this moment, the twins' fate remains unwritten. The courtroom, not the camera, now plays the leading role, and whether that arc bends toward redemption or decline depends on legal outcomes, public perception, and who shapes the narrative going forward. If you've been following this wild, twisting saga, there's still more ahead, like court updates, behind-the-scenes details, and deep-dive breakdowns you won't see anywhere else. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter. The story's far from over.